Who could forget the schoolroom video of the moment President Bush learned about the attacks on America? He was in this teacher's second grade class.
And I said, something is wrong here.
President Bush stood up from this chair. He made his way outside of the classroom, but he didn't leave the school just yet.
Now, what the teacher can't forget about that day. Then, what did President Bush feel like at that moment in history? He interviewed the president.
At some points, he's just desk-pounding angry.
Then, after all we've learned about the September 11th hijackers, how could getting fake ID possibly be this easy?
I got Florida, Michigan.
Phony identities with shocking ease.
You just made an ID for somebody who's a terrorist. I mean, this is dangerous, isn't it? I mean, you're making IDs for people who commit crimes.
Then see what happens when we try to use a phony driver's license to board a plane. Plus, as one of the battling beauty queens leaves the Miss America pageant to go to court over her crown, her mother talks. Now, Inside Edition with Deborah Norville.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is the scene at Ground Zero, where the observances of the first anniversary of September 11th will be held. The Attorney General today upgraded the nation's alert status from yellow to orange because of what's been called unspecified threat and increased chatter among al-Qaeda sympathizers. In our special Inside Edition today, we've got reports from Stacey Galante in Los Angeles, Paul Boyd in Florida, Les Trent in New York, and Matt Mahar with an undercover investigation. Everyone remembers where they were when they heard the news September 11th. President Bush was in Florida making an appearance at an elementary school. And for the teacher there, it was an unexpected lesson in history and courage. Paul Boyd reports.
It's a moment burned into our minds as a group of Florida second grade students and teachers witness history. President Bush making a stunning announcement.
Today we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
For teacher Sandra K. Daniels, it was supposed to be a day of honor, a chance to meet the president. Instead, it was a day of tragedy.
I said, something's wrong. Something is wrong.
The drama unfolded with President Bush arriving at Emma E. Booker Elementary School in Sarasota, Florida, prepared to speak about education. As these powerful images were being revealed on television, the president was about to read to a class of second graders. At 9:07 a.m., White House Chief of Staff Andrew Card whispers unimaginable news. The president's face immediately tenses.
He totally changed. He was not the same man that entered my classroom that morning. His whole demeanor changed. His presence changed.
This tiny school quickly becomes a command center for the biggest crisis in American history. A few minutes after learning that America was under attack, President Bush stood up from this chair. He made his way outside of the classroom, but he didn't leave the school just yet. For the next 15 minutes, surrounded by Secret Service and top advisors, he made important phone calls from this room to people like the Vice President and the Director of the FBI. The president then heads through 3 classrooms, cuts across this courtyard, and into a library full of students and media. It was 9:30 a.m.
May God bless the victims, their families, and America.
While these students may not fully understand the impact of that day, they'll never forget being in the middle of it.
And many people died and lost their kids, children.
And so we say.
Today, these students are preparing for their 9/11 tribute, and the chair used by the president remains blocked off. A way to mark the day this school was part of history.
When they write it in the books, it'll say President Bush was at Emma E. Booker School. Yes, he was here, and I'm a part of history, and I go on.
We will pursue the killers and bring them to justice. We owe that to those who've lost their lives.
On September 11th, CBS's 60 Minutes 2 will broadcast the first interview with President Bush about his recollections of September 11th. April Woodard has details on what to expect.
I can remember sitting right here in this office, thinking about the consequences of what had taken place and realizing it was a defining moment in the history of the United States.
It's just a few hours after the attacks, and President Bush is on Air Force One, wondering what was coming next, getting ready to strike back.
I knew we were at war. I'd made up my mind we were at war.
60 Minutes 2, Scott Pelley went aboard the presidential jet for an exclusive minute-by-minute account.
Who's Abbott?
Congress's boss. He shut down Trent.
Is he here in Berlin? Did he run Treadstone?
Very hopeful, and other times he's very tearful as he remembers the pain of those days.
The president also revealed scary moments aboard Air Force One.
They believed that the airplane was a target. There was a moment in which there was an airliner that they thought was headed for them.
And that was to set a strategy to seek justice, find out who did it, hunt them down, and bring them to justice.
You can see the interview in its entirety September 11th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. September 11th, of course, will be a day of national remembrance, and very little of what takes place on September 11th can be called business as usual. Stacey Galandi and Les Trent look ahead to what we can expect.
Oh, my God.
It was the day a stunned world gasped, and on the first anniversary of 9/11, America will come to a virtual standstill once again.
From New York to L.A., it seems few people plan to travel, shop, or go about their daily lives Wednesday. Airlines have canceled 3,200 domestic flights.
2 carriers are fully booked. Spirit Airlines is flying passengers for free, National for $1 a seat. Broadcast networks plan news specials and somber memorials. Cable networks will air documentaries with 9/11 themes. Among them, a National Geographic special, Inside the Pentagon. Oxygen focuses on the widows of just one New York neighborhood. Even MTV will examine post-9/11 pop culture. Some networks like A&E, the Food Network, and HGTV will suspend programming for part of the day. These tribute spots were designed to match the nation's reflective mood. HGTV President Burton Jablin has given 800 staff time off to join the day of remembrance.
Whatever they want to do, be with their loved ones, we think that's the right way to handle a day that for many people is a very emotional day.
Some top advertisers, including Pepsi, GM, and Target, are staying away from 9/11. Les?
Stacey, I'm in Times Square. Movies shooting on location here in New York will halt production. And despite the motto, the show must go on, most Broadway shows will be dark. Roz Ryan and Roxanne Carrasco are in the musical Chicago.
I think it's a matter of respect, because they were forced to shut down on the 11th, and now they're shutting down by choice.
For me, it's going to be important to be by myself and to be quiet and reflective on that day, and I'm happy that we're not having a show.
New York Fashion Week and glitzy parties linked to it have been put back 10 days, as has the launch of J-Lo's new perfume. The ill-starred date is almost a blank day for weddings.
The event, the banquet rooms in the city are practically a ghost town that day.
Howard Givner is one of New York's top event planners.
I don't think people really needed to be told not to plan events on September 11th, and that carries through a lot of different areas of business in the city.
Even hardened news pros like Fox News Channel's Bill O'Reilly say it's going to be a long, tough day.
I don't want to rehash all this. I'm not looking forward to it. I'll be happy when September 12th is here.
After the September 11th observances, the focus will likely switch to Iraq. On Thursday, President Bush will address the United Nations seeking international support for his more aggressive stand against Saddam Hussein.
Next, after all we've learned about the September 11th hijackers, how could getting fake ID possibly be this easy?
You just made an ID for somebody who's a terrorist.
But could a fake ID get us past security and on a plane? Then, as one of the battling beauty queens leaves the Miss America pageant to go to court over her crown, her mother talks. See how her daughter told her about the topless photos that could ruin her career. Plus, a fireman calendar honors the ones who are gone. Inside Edition with Deborah Norville will be right back.
That's one of the world's most wanted terrorists, believed to be the mastermind of the September 11th attacks. Could someone so notorious obtain top-quality fake IDs like a driver's license in the United States today? And could a phony ID be used to charter planes? As Matt Mahar discovered, the troubling answer to both questions is yes.
Are you a police officer?
No.
Are you working with the police?
No.
Are you working with the DA's office?
No.
Why is this man asking our undercover researcher all these questions? Because he doesn't want to get busted. You see, he'll sell just about anybody who walks through his door a phony driver's license. Just pick your state.
I have Florida, Michigan, Arizona, Pennsylvania.
How big of a problem is it?
It's an epidemic, in my view. It's incredible.
James Kallstrom was the former chief of the FBI office in New York City and advises New York State on counterterrorism. He says the peddling of fake IDs is at the heart of terrorism. And he points out recent cases like the arrest last month of Egyptian immigrant Mohammed El Atis for allegedly supplying 2 of the September 11th hijackers with fake IDs. Atis has pled not guilty. How hard is it to get a fake government ID? To find out, we went undercover and hit the streets of Los Angeles, Manhattan, and Queens, New York. Peter Varela Plaza, a former New York motor vehicles investigator, went undercover for us in Queens. After a short time on the street, he was referred to this man. He was led to a photo store to take a picture and told to come back in an hour.
1 hour?
For just 120 bucks, he was sold a fake Social Security card and a resident alien card.
Could he have cared less if you were a terrorist?
I don't think so. I really don't. That's what's scary about it.
In Manhattan, less than a mile from Ground Zero, our researcher had no problem finding a store where this man was offering driver's licenses.
Hey, how you doing?
He took our researcher into a back room. That's where he uses this small computer to make authentic-looking driver's licenses.
Perfect.
Like this one from Delaware.
Matt Mahar with the TV show Inside Edition.
Okay, how you doing?
Good. We were here August 20th, and you sold one of our undercover associates a phony Delaware's license.
All right. I don't make phony licenses. These are not phony licenses.
This isn't a phony license?
No.
What's that say?
Because I've never seen this before.
You made it.
Oh, yeah. All I did was, my friend actually, all he did was change her date of birth. This girl wanted to go to the club.
Right. So you don't
so
think
my
you're,
friend,
you don't
I
think you're
didn't
aiding
do
or
it.
abetting
I
terrorism.
didn't. Of course not.
All you're doing is helping kids get into bars.
What's going on?
And near downtown Los Angeles, the counterfeiters practically chase you down to make a sale. A 4-block area is filled with men offering fake IDs. These 2 men said they'd sell me a California driver's license for $125. I said I wanted 2, one for me and one for this man, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. An hour later, we had the 2 very real-looking California driver's licenses. Oh, by the way, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is the Osama bin Laden operative suspected of masterminding the September 11th terrorist attack. We had taken his picture off the most wanted terrorist list on the FBI website.
You just made an ID for one of the terrorists that the government's looking for. You just made an ID for somebody who's a terrorist. I mean, this is dangerous, isn't it? I mean, you're making IDs for people who commit crimes.
With my fake California driver's license, I had no problem buying an airline ticket for cash and then use the fake license to get past security at Newark International Airport in New Jersey.
Be safe.
The ID was actually checked a total of 3 times before I boarded a flight to Logan Airport in Boston.
Are we just wasting our time?
We have to go to a series of high technology identifications.
In all, we acquired 7 fake IDs. Document expert Cindy Kromholtz teaches law enforcement officials around the country on how to spot fake identifications.
How good or professional do you think this California license looks?
It's very good, and the problem is people who are checking your identification are not trained. So if you went to try and get on an airplane, basically they're going to look at your photograph and that it matches your name and it matches you, and you'll be on that flight.
Kromholtz said that many of the phony documents could be discovered with simple, inexpensive lights that uncover hidden markings on many government-issued documents.
Where you just need, basic equipment, these ultraviolet lights that are $20, $30, yet people aren't even equipped with a basic magnifying glass.
With this small light, a New York emblem can be found embedded in the ID, and an ultraviolet light uncovers the word Texas throughout this license.
I've never seen one of these used at the airport or anywhere.
Right. Basically, what you'll find is the people who are really checking your identification are the bouncers in the bars. And, the bars will invest in a $20 light to check your ID. And it's said that a bouncer in a bar is checking your identification more than an airline ticket agent.
With the apparent lack of security when it comes to detecting phony IDs, it's not surprising how many people are willing to take the chance of buying and selling fake documents.
You're making IDs for people who commit crimes.
Legislation to set national standards for driver's licenses has met with resistance from many state officials who consider driver's licenses a state responsibility.
Still to come, we'll tell you why one of the Miss North Carolina beauty queens made an emergency flight home to hold on to her crown, and what her parents have to say about those scandalous photos. Plus, before September 11th, New York's bravest posed for a calendar. Now, 1 year later, it's being released, even though some of the firefighters died in the terror attacks. FDNY honors its own. Production assistance for Inside Edition provided by...
This is not the time to worry about acne scars. Now I have confidence in my work and my appearance. Mederma, skincare for scars.
Stay tuned. There's more Inside Edition to come. Comedy, television, and the most serious day of the year. What comedians are doing to respectfully remember. Coming to Inside Edition.
The Battle of the Carolinas goes back to court today as a federal judge tries to figure out which Miss North Carolina should compete for Miss America. Les Trent has the latest, including our exclusive interview with the mom of one of the beauty queens.
It is a tense situation, but you have to find the best. You have to make it lighthearted, and that's what we've tried to do.
You are not seeing things. These are the two rival beauties at the heart of the Miss North Carolina controversy, chatting away like old college chums.
That's part of the Miss America organization, is to be able to handle situations like this and be able to think on your feet and deal with whatever is come your way. And
that's Misty Clymer, who was awarded the Miss North Carolina crown after Rebecca Revels resigned the title for an astonishing reason. Her ex-boyfriend had reportedly contacted pageant officials and said he had topless photos of her.
I just don't understand why he did it.
And that's Rebecca's mom, Dina, in an exclusive interview with Inside Edition about that ex-boyfriend, Tosh Welch.
Tosh was a favorite of our family, of JD and myself. I really can't say anything about Tosh except how hurt I am.
Rebecca claims she resigned under pressure, and a state court judge agreed to reinstate her in the pageant. Now she seeks a federal injunction to stay in the pageant. Her parents went to court to support Rebecca and took along this sign planted on the lawn by well-wishers. Mom and Dad drove to federal court in Wilmington, but their daughter got there via chartered plane from Atlantic City. So which of these beauties will represent North Carolina in the pageant? Rebecca, Misty, both? At this point, anything seems possible. And no matter what happens, Rebecca's family is behind her all the way.
We are very proud of her. We are very proud of her. And no matter what the outcome is, we will always be proud of her.
When we come back, how a few of those lost last September 11th will be remembered in the coming year. On today's Inside Track, this year's Miss America will be crowned September 21st. Do you know which state has won the most Miss America pageants? Is it Texas, Ohio, or California? The answer when we come back.
Production assistance for Inside Edition provided by... Stay tuned. There's more Inside Edition to come.
So do you know which state has won the most Miss America titles? It's actually a tie between Ohio and California. Both states have won 6 pageants each since 1921. Still ahead, despite tragedy, a tradition among New York's bravest continues. Finally today, post 9/11, a time-honored tradition of New York City firefighters will continue. The Firefighters Calendar, which April Woodard tells us will include 3 firefighters who paid the ultimate price.
Every year, 12 handsome firemen strike a sexy pose for the New York Firefighters Benefit Calendar. But this year, it's less about sex appeal and more about honoring the true heroes of September 11th. 3 of the men on the just-released 2003 calendar lost their lives that day. Tom Foley, Robert Cordice, and Angel Tuarby.
We all knew each other, and so
it's got a very personal touch.
This is something they wanted to do. This is why it was important for us to go ahead with this calendar.
The calendar was almost canceled out of sensitivity for the victims, but the families of the lost firefighters insisted on its release. Miriam Jawarbi is Angel Jawarbi's mother.
He was looking forward to seeing those pictures in the calendar.
Now the pictures like this one of Angel symbolize the 343 members who made the ultimate sacrifice. And for New York's bravest who came face to face with the horror of that day, healing has only just begun 1 year later.
I don't know if it has healed yet. I think it's going to take a while before it heals. A lot of guys still hurting. We lost a lot of great guys.
And that's Inside Edition. I'm Deborah Norville. Please join us tomorrow as we broadcast from Ground Zero. We'll see you then.